smells like dirty gym socks and cigarette smoke. This video calls for a toast. Let me tell you, I just got back from buying a 1967 Martin 0018. It is wonderful and I'm excited to show it to you. But before we get into that, I want to make sure you know about the sponsor of this video. This video is sponsored by General Admission Brewing Company. They have launched a line of non-alcoholic brews that are delicious. This has been my vibe all summer. Ever since moving from Virginia to Louisiana, the General Admission, they have 4 really distinct flavors. The orange one is my favorite. So this is the Orange Ovation. Lemon Lime is a very classic, super refreshing. After you cut the grass, after I unloaded a full truckload of guitars getting them here, this is what I kicked back with. Grapefruit Groove, super crispy, super light, very airy. None of these are overly sweet. Raspberry Remix, huge fan of these. Thanks to General Admission. There are gonna be links in the description down below. There's gonna be more information. And yeah, these have really been just my respite after chasing down guitars. So, hope you join with me to the hunt. I'm on a hot streak. I bought a 67 Martin D28 a few weeks ago. I've got a 49 D18 in the pipeline. No one knows about that. Maybe I should buy that before this video comes out. But in this video, I talk about this guitar. This is a beautiful old vintage Martin that I found actually in West Virginia. Now, I live in Louisiana now, but this one came from West Virginia. This one just kind of popped up and a friend had it and he said, hey, if you pay me for it, you can have it. So I want to show you what this guitar is and I want to give you some guiding principles. Number 1, if you're trying to buy vintage, old, cool guitars, you need to always be looking, build a community of people that are also looking and know that that's what you're into. And then the third thing is you got to have some money in the bank so that you can just jump on it, pony up some cash and get cool stuff. So let me show you this guitar. This is a 1967 Martin 0018. The 00 size is so perfectly tiny and lovable and squeezable. This is, of the 4 main sizes of Martin guitars, this is like halfway between the small and the big ones. This one's not too big, not too boisterous, not too small, not too tiny. This one's just right. In the Martin vernacular, there's single O, which is a very small guitar. Then you get to a 00, which is still a parlor guitar technically. This is where the size parlor technically ends. Then you get to a 000. So I have a bunch of 000s, like my Zone Fleet back here is a 000. And then you get into the dreadnought. Dreadnoughts are here, there, everywhere. Your cousin has a couple of them. Everybody knows about the dreadnought. But the general recipe is a spruce top. In this case, this would be a German spruce, more than likely. But a very tight grained spruce. It would not be Adirondack. That was older in the 30s and then had a real resurgence in the early 2000s. But a tight grained Sitka spruce top. And then on the back, you would have mahogany. Almost always this would be Honduran mahogany. And this is just iconic, like totally classic, what you would expect mahogany. It would have a rosewood bridge and fingerboard. That's another iconic 18 series thing. And then also would have this dark binding all around the top, back, and sides. There's no fretboard binding. This is, the 18 series is always just bare bones essential. This is an F-150 XL. This guitar does have a Brazilian rosewood headplate and it's not quite as rounded. By the time you get into the late 60s, you get a really rounded headstock. This one, it's round, but it's not as like totally rounded over that you get into the 1969 and even into 70 before they come back to being really square and crispy in the early 70s. So that's all the pertinent details on what makes this an 18 series and a 00. Now we will talk about what's wrong with this guitar and the damage and the condition of it, but first I want to play it, I want you to hear it, and then we'll come back and I'll walk you through the rest of what everything right and wrong, all these big chunks taken out of it. Let's hear this thing first. what the 18 series is, what the body size of a 00 is, but let me tell you the story on this guitar. This guitar came from Hometown Music, from my friend Chris. He owns Hometown Music, still dear friends. They run what I think and what I've put my name on, and 2 years of energy and effort, is the best guitar shop in Virginia is Hometown Music. So Chris texted me about this guitar. He said, hey, I've got this guitar coming in on trade. Without you here, we don't do as much vintage stuff, and I know you love old Martins. What do you think of this? And at first, we thought it was a 00018, which triple O's, it's like each O, single O, double O, triple O, each O seems to add an O on the end of those prices. So I thought a 00018 would have been a steal. And once I saw the pictures, I knew immediately that this was a 00. But, so Chris and I looked at pictures, talked about this guitar, and we came to a number where I was like, hey, I think it needs some work. So if I were you, I'd pay this. And then I think it would be worth that. And yeah, I think this guitar, when it's sorted and settled, is probably a $3,000 to $3,500 guitar. But that was kind of a scary thing for Chris to undertake. And so he said, hey, how about this? How about I make a certain percent, and then you just pay it. You send me a label. We'll send it to you in Louisiana. You can do with it as you see fit. So that's the option we went with. So this is the 1968 Martin 0018. It showed up here without the original case, or at least it has the original case, which is back there on that shelf. And it smells like, gosh, it smells like dirty gym socks and cigarette smoke. It is so stinky, and it's not even like, this guitar didn't come with a case in the same way that we think of cases coming from dealers. So there was a case that was purchased probably from the dealer when this guitar came new, but it is not particularly great or exciting. So this guitar showed up in a modern fit, really nice TKL Martin branded case, which is the right thing. So somebody spent $150, $200 on a good case for this guitar. So let's dig into this thing. I want to talk about everything right and wrong with it as I see it, and I'll kind of tell you what my plan is for this guitar. Starting with the headstock, this thing is a late 60s, really dark logo there on the headstock. Cool aging on the nickel on the Grover tuners. I'll show you those in a second. 1.11" nut width and a beautiful rosewood board. And a shorter scale length. I forget the exact scale length. I think it's 24 or something. But as you can see, the main the $500 question on these guitars is, does it need a neck reset? And the answer is, yeah, probably. Probably does need a neck reset. Now, the other things with this guitar that are worth noting, as you look around, there are a couple little dings and dents and scratches and stuff. Right here, there's a crack that's been fixed on this guitar. So there's a crack there, and then there's also the same crack that, all guitars, all Martins from this time period have, is this little pickguard crack. That's it as far as the top of this guitar goes. Pretty clean. Just the center seam may have opened up at some point, but that's not crazy. And so that one little crack over here. The guitar, other than that, is in really good shape. And if we talk about the tuners, these are really cool. They only were for a couple years, so you don't see them very often. So late 60s on these. And I want to show you, if I can stand the guitar up this way. This tuner has just a little bit of a gap that you can see when you're playing it. It's hard to see on camera, but there's a little gap in the housing right here where my fingernail is. Where the others are really tight and closed up. This one up top just has a little bit of a gap. But the back of the guitar, this is a beautiful little wear spot. Look at this beautiful wear spot right here on the fretboard, or on the back side. You can tell that somebody's thumb just sat right there for years and years and years. This guitar probably just, played on a porch, played in a church, and it's just really cool. I love this mahogany. It's so dark and so rich looking. there's no strap button. So this guitar has just been on somebody's lap. Maybe there was a shoestring tied around here, but yeah. Another cool little detail. Check this thing out. So that's a little Brazilian rosewood heel cap. That's just from the era when they had lots of rosewood around and they could do cool stuff like that. So as we go and look at the back of the guitar, there's plenty of scuffs and dings. Nothing that scares me off. Everything that makes my heart happy. I don't think there are any cracks on the back. Just a good, honest little guitar. This guitar will be for sale. I actually have somebody that's already like very hot on this guitar. And so it may not even come back to me from getting repaired, if you can read between the lines there. But I'm sending these off to get a neck reset, because that's the main thing people do want, is they like guitars when they're sorted and just ready to go. And that's a service that, you know, I like doing. I like seeing guitars get that, just the tune-up that they need in their lives. So thanks for watching this video. I'm Jeremy. This is Guitar Hunter. Go find awesome guitars like this. Like, they are out there. Like, this one wasn't even that hard. It's just, if you care about guitars for long enough, if you talk about them, obsess about them, talk to people at church, at work, at the farmer's market about how much you love old guitars, go when people are playing music, talk to them about their guitars after they play, you will find cool, amazing stuff. And that's what we need. So, all right, you can do it. I believe in you. Go buy some merch at jeremytheguitarhunter.com/shop. Buy one of these badass rad shirts. See you later.
Thank you.